and welcome to another episode of Ask the Doc. I'm your host, Jennifer Filzen, and I have today with me Tricia Parido of Turning Leaves Recovery, Life, and Wellness Coaching. Welcome, Tricia.
Hello, hello. Good morning, everybody.
I'm so glad you could join me. Where are you located, Tricia?
I'm located in the San Luis Obispo County, which is directly between San Francisco and Los Angeles on the coast of California. Professionally, I'm located all across the U.S., Canada, et cetera, et cetera.
Wonderful. And yay, Central Coast. I'm right north of you in Monterey County. So that's fantastic.
Awesome.
I love that you work worldwide. So now you sent me a lot of your information, and you are just, if I may say, you're a badass. Okay. So you are a master coach. You own Turning Leaves Recovery, Life, and Wellness Coaching. You're an author. You're a public speaker. Like, what don't you do? Could you do us a favor and just kind of give us a story of how you got started and where you are now, and a brief history of your journey?
Well, there's nothing brief about it, so I will do my best. I got started creating and building my practice in my own recovery journey. And I'm going to say my last recovery journey because, I've had over a 30-year story with over 25 years of recovery from one thing or another. But my last recovery journey, so for the last 10 years, is how I, actually cultivated and created everything that is Turning Leaves. And it was because I realized that there were gaps and needs that I had that were outside of the traditional, we'll call it, scope of practice in the addiction and therapeutic world. And so anyway, I did a lot of seeking, searching, and education, which landed me with about roughly 15, I think now, credentials. I lost count after 11. And, there's just so much that goes into recovery. And when you look at a life that, I don't want to date myself, but I really don't care if I date myself. I'm in my 50s. I have 5 grown children. I have 5 grandchildren, and a wonderful husband. But if we look at, life journeys, when you look at the difference between the 70s and now, like, there's so much we didn't know that we know now. And, so growing up and healing and recovering from sexual assault, rape, domestic violence, emotional neglect, emotional abuse, there was just not a whole lot that was afforded us, if you even told anybody, because I didn't. I just kind of kept it inside. But that's because I was born an overachiever. So, my whole life, I was always way ahead of the game. And anyway, which lends itself to exactly why I found myself, in the midst of eating disorders, disordered eating, people pleasing, codependency, chemical addiction, perfectionism, the whole 9 yards. And so when I was in recovery from a physiological addiction that came about due to prescription medication that really shouldn't have been prescribed to me because I was a low-level daily drinker. So, and I say low level because the severity wasn't that high. I had already, been working for years on my addictions, and I say that plurally. And so, it was already a low level, but the chemical combination of the medications for generalized anxiety disorder with low-level daily drinking over time, 5 years to be exact, really wreaked havoc and created a physiological addiction that that I didn't really understand, which is what landed me back in college.
Wow. Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. So what I love is that you haven't just watched someone you love go through this and you were called to help others. You went through this yourself. And I applaud
At
you
all
for
of those
sharing
levels.
your vulnerability. Yeah, yeah. That is amazing. And you saw the gaps and you were like, okay, there's a better way to do this. And you're absolutely right. Mental health was something that was taboo to discuss in the 70s and 80s, right? Because, you didn't want to be crazy and you didn't want to be sent off to get a lobotomy or, it just was not a safe, it didn't feel like a safe place to say, I'm just feeling a little mentally challenged and I need some help. Nope. Our whole generation, right? Just kind of like tapped it all down, and drugs and alcohol were an opportunity to just kind of put all that stuff underneath the rug, right? And here you are today. So tell me, who is it that you're serving? Are you serving the addicts themselves, or are you doing more of like a comprehensive thing involving their support network, their families? I mean, how is it that you're turning lives around, and who are you serving?
Yes, and yes. So here's the deal. People come to me frequently and they say, I don't have an addiction, but I wonder if you could help me. Everything that you're talking about sounds like what I need in my life. So it's Turning Leaves Recovery, Life, and Wellness Coaching for a reason. And again, we could throw all of those credentials in there to explain how we can actually address it. But society holds a very narrow perspective around the words addiction and recovery. The first thing you think about is the down, the out, the ill, the poorly functioning, the people that need to be removed from their environment so that they can be fixed and then returned. So, one, that's a misconception. I'm going to tell you, your all in, all out diet culture is an addiction. Your need to be at the 6 a.m. spin class, and if you don't, your whole life falls apart, is an addiction. So we have a gamut of process, behavioral, and chemical addictions that can be overcome. And I do a signature talk called Why Living Without Habits Fixes Everything. So there's a broad spectrum of people that I serve. So sure, do I work with people that are actively engaged in chemical addiction? Absolutely. To a level of severity that is appropriate for my level of care. I am a big believer that all levels of addiction treatment have a purpose, they have their value, and they have their need. I've worked in every level of care. So if we look at I serve a lot of folks that are high level entrepreneurs that don't need to be removed from their lives. They're functioning, they have kids, they're doing just fine, they're, whatever. So there's a broad spectrum that I will work with, and it's just on an individual basis, and we have to figure out what is the best plan or the layout. So I could work with somebody for as short as 3 months or 2 years. It just depends on the person. The important piece is, and if you think about this, when we discharge people from treatment, we send them home and we say, go to AA, NA, whatever, and see a therapist once a week. And that is great. However, none of that teaches you how to go home to the same house, spouse, kids, bills, job, environment that you were previously not functioning in. There is a level of emotional intelligence we don't know, we don't have, but need to be successful. And that's what I do. I teach the practical application of the psychological skill sets and tactics that we need to experience living differently, better, and show up the way that we really want to see ourselves, experience our environments the way that we need to experience our environments, and actually allow people to see us in the light that we want to be seen. And then, of course, there's esteem building work, and there is training on how to make it lifelong, manageable, and maintainable. Because conditioning is necessary. We can't just go for 30 days and think a 30-year addiction is going to be done. It's just not going to happen. It takes time. It takes, deep investigation, and then it takes conditioning.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, you've been doing this a while, and I'm sure you've made a huge impact in some lives. And it's so cool to hear that it's not just the people that have really gone advanced down the slippery slope. These are the people that are just like, something's off. I'm not quite there yet, but I need some tools. Can you share with us some success stories of how your coaching and how your treatments have been helping people?
Wow, to choose one.
I know, right?
I'm gonna go with my favorite, and also I know that she would just be extremely ecstatic that I shared her story. But I met a young woman who had been struggling with addiction for a really long time, and I met her while she was in a residential treatment program. And as she was discharging, we started working together in her assertive continuum of care. And in that assertive continuum of care, we also brought in therapists, trauma therapists. We brought in psychologists. We created a collaborative team that was going to meet all of the needs of all areas of her life. And we did work in her first year on learning how to sit in and move through the uncomfortable of early recovery, because if you know anything about that, post-acute withdrawal actually sticks around for a couple of years. So we started there and we worked there, and then we transitioned into working on how to live with her mental health issues, mental health disorder. So we had a true, organic, genuine case of bipolar, which sometimes isn't the case. Sometimes you remove those chemical substances and you get to a baseline. You see some of these diagnosed situations dissipate. This was a true one. So we worked for, another significant period of time, again, with the whole team on learning how to live with that. And then we moved into anger management. And then we moved into relationships and familial and romantic, intimate relationships. And then we went into, life, you really diving into that life balance and looking at all 8 categories. Well, actually 14, because there's 6 subcategories that go in there. And we balanced everything out. And now this wonderful client of mine who's been with me in and out through these different, nuances and changes of life for over 4 years, is now has her master's and is positioned to be a clinical practitioner, but she's also in training and will be coming out as a coach for the Turning Leaves practice. And she's amazing. And I just literally couldn't be more ecstatic to see this young woman over the last, I think it's been 4.5 years, just really evolve. Wow. Move into, all of her dreams and aspirations, and to be married and to be thinking about, creating a family and just really watching that. And with that, of course, I did work with the entire family unit off and on throughout the first, I'm going to say 18 months. Wow. So that entire unit would heal. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what a great success story, right? Essentially, I'm listening to you like you've learned, right? And then you teach somebody else, and now she's learned, and now she's also going to be a coach. You created your own little mini me. That's awesome. Oh, that's so cool. So now you're expanding your practice. So you are expanding and you plan to serve more people worldwide. Could you tell us a little bit about how people can find you and the services that you offer?
Absolutely. It's super easy to find me. One, you can just look at my name, right? Google it. Type in Turning Leaves Recovery. You'll find it. We're not a secret. So it's turningleafsrecovery.com. Just look at the top right corner. You can have a conversation with me, complimentary. I don't care, no pressure, anytime. Just click the button. I'll be there. And I specialize in all things process behavioral and chemical addiction in nature. And I have a deep passion about loving our entire body. So with my clients, I always dive in, super deep. And that's to include diet, nutrition, the whole nine yards, and we cultivate that emotional intelligence. My team is going to be specialized in recovery fitness, nutrition, eating disorders, body dysmorphia. We have a teen motivation coach that is international, parent support, family support, anxiety, ADHD, mental health in that aspect where you have a significant depression. I have a coach that specializes in healing the suicidal ideation. Harm reduction, something I'm very excited to be bringing because I believe wholeheartedly that harm reduction is super important. So we have harm reduction that's going to be coming. Wow, I'm forgetting a couple.
And that's okay. You know what? Because Tricia, we're running out of time, sweetheart. But you know what? You're absolutely right. The list is great. I love this. So everybody tuning in, thank you again for joining us today on Ask the Doc. I'm so hopeful that you enjoyed getting to know Tricia Parido. And please, if you want to find more about Turning Leaves Recovery, Life, and Wellness Coaching, you can go to Buzz TV at iwannabuzz.com and connect with her. But truly, Tricia, you are amazing. Thank you so much. Okay, goodbye, everyone. Have a great day.